What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another reaction with your host, the Ignorant Eclectic Mad Genius. And today we are checking out the Route 411. So earlier this week or last week, my brother was telling me about how Pokemon were humans and this and this and that. And I was just like, man, what the hell you talking about, bruh? Pokemons was never been humans. They were pocket monsters, blah, 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 blah. And literally, like less than 48 hours or 24 hours, this popped up on my For You page on YouTube. So this is from the 411. These Pokemon used to be human. So let's watch it. Oh, shout out to my brother Bug, man. Shout out to my brother J Bug for technically kind of putting me on and in the algorithm for, being the algorithm. Listen to my conversation.
Every time you catch a Pokemon, there's a chance that it used to be human, and this isn't another one of those creepy fan theories. There are Pokemon that were once human, who died, came back, and are now trapped inside the very creatures you send into battle. Children who got lost in the woods and came back as something else. People who died and now wander the world fully aware of what they used to be. And in some cases, they're not just aware, well, they're trying to take others with them. And the only reason we even know this is because the games actually tell us through the Pokédex. The more you actually...
Honestly, I never really, after, I want to say, Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, I never really paid attention to the Pokédex after those.
Start reading the Pokédex entries, the more you realize something is seriously wrong. Because hidden inside those tiny descriptions are stories about Pokemon that weren't always Pokemon. Some of them were human. This might be one of the most disturbing things in the entire franchise.
My 1-2 duo, boy. Boys was cold.
Phantom makes the start of our uncomfortable journey. At first glance, this Pokemon doesn't look like much. It's a small, slightly creepy ghost type, a little tree stump with glowing eyes that drifts through the forest. I actually think this guy is pretty cute. It's the kind of Pokemon you'd probably expect to just, well, exist in the background. But then you read its Pokédex entry and everything changes. Because according to multiple entries across different games, Phantom is created when the spirit of a child gets lost in the woods and dies. Let that sink in for a second. The game straight up tells you that this Pokemon used to be a human child. And it doesn't stop there. Phantom also imitates the voice of a child, crying out, calling for help, all to lure people deeper into the forest. So if you follow that voice, you might not be coming back, which raises a really...
So you telling me my grandma was right? We was playing with demons this entire time? Well, grandma, I guess you was right again.
Disturbing, but also sad question. Is Phantom trying to find help, or is it trying to make sure no one else ever leaves the forest either? Because some Pokédex entries suggest something quite sad, that perhaps it's not actually evil at all, but that it's just, well, that lonely child who died trying to find anyone to be with. And that completely changes how you see this Pokemon, because this is a ghost that still thinks it's a child. And it gets even worse when you realize that this tragic thought isn't just a one-off, because it keeps showing up again and again across the Pokemon world.
Okay, what else? Yamask.
Next up is Yamask. Yamask knows it was human, and it remembers its entire past life.
Really?
Now, here comes the creepy part. According to its Pokédex entries, Yamask carries around a mask, and that mask used to be its face. This ain't something symbolic, nothing like that at all. It's actual face from when it was human, and it gets worse. Sometimes it just stops and looks at it and then cries. That's because Yamask recognizes who it used to be. This isn't just a ghost Pokemon drifting through the world minding its own business. It's something that was once a person, now trapped in a completely different body, but fully aware of what it's lost. It remembers its life, its identity, it remembers everything about being human, and now it's forced to exist like this. For me, this is the most unsettling part of it all. That mask is a face that belonged to someone, a real person with friends, family, memories, all gone, reduced to a mask that this now Pokemon carries around. Yamask, like many other Pokemon today, is super tragic. It hasn't moved on, nor is it forgotten. It's just stuck. And honestly, that might be a worse fate than death itself.
Oh, wow. Kadabra. Kadabra.
Kadabra is a little different because it wasn't a spirit or a ghost. It didn't come from someone who died at all. Now, according to its Pokédex entries, Kadabra was once a living human boy. A boy who had psychic abilities, who woke up one day like this. He was human one moment and Pokemon the next. Now, the most disturbing part is that he didn't lose his mind. He didn't become some wandering spirit. He's still there, trapped inside a body that can't even properly communicate what happened to him. Just try to imagine that existence. You wake up one day and you're no longer human. On top of that, you're now being treated as a creature. You're either captured, battled, trained, or all of the above and perhaps more. And the worst part is that no one around you even questions it. Because in the world of Pokemon, this is just normal. But it does get even stranger because this isn't just some one-off story. There are actual humans in this world with psychic abilities. Characters like Sabrina, people who can bend spoons, move objects, read minds, that kind of thing. When you dive deeper into this, Kadabra is an example that this may not be an accident, but more perhaps a possibility. Like something that could happen if those powers go too far. And if that's the case, well, how many Kadabra are out there that didn't start as Pokemon at all? How many of them used to be people just like that boy? Unlike everything we've talked about so far, this didn't happen after death. This happened while he was still alive.
Huh. That's one of the newer gen Pokemon. Spiritomb.
This time, we're not talking about one person. This time, we're talking about 108. According to its Pokédex entries, Spiritomb isn't a single being at all. It's a collection of 108 human souls, fused together and bound to a single amalgamation. Think about how insane that is. This isn't one life, but 108 separate people, all trapped inside the same body. Now, these souls didn't just end up there by accident. They were sealed away, punished, and locked into this form for misdeeds committed hundreds of years ago, which already paints a pretty dark picture. But it gets worse when you start diving into the details. Those souls are described as ill-natured, restless, constantly thinking wicked thoughts and placing curses on anyone who gets too close. So now you've got this entity made up of over 100 human souls, all trapped together, unable to escape. You have to ask, are they even still human anymore? Or has being trapped like this for so long turned them into something completely different? And of course, there's something else that makes this even more disturbing. The number 108. It isn't random. In multiple religions, the number is tied to human desires, sins, and spiritual corruption, which fits this situation perfectly. The more we look at this one, the worse it gets. Because think about it, Spiritomb isn't really a Pokemon now. It's more like a prison where human souls are sent when they've done something very, very wrong in life. And now, we may never know the exact history behind this cursed Pokemon, but perhaps that's not a bad thing.
That's one of the newer gen too.
And And just when you think this couldn't get any darker, next up we have Hone Edge. Hone Edge is a weapon, a sword, and according to its Pokédex entries, that sword is being controlled by a human soul. But here's where it gets really creepy, because that soul didn't just end up there randomly. In some cases, it's said to belong to someone who was killed by that very sword. Let that sink in for a second. The weapon that took their life is now the very thing they're trapped inside, forced to exist as till the end of time. And it doesn't just stop there. Hone Edge isn't just a possessed object, it also actively drains the life force of anyone who touches it, using the cloth wrapped around its hilt to slowly siphon energy from its victims. That's the really disturbing thing about this Pokemon. It's not just a cursed object, it's a weapon that kills, creates another soul, and potentially adds it to whatever is already trapped inside it. It's a Pokemon that's continuing a violent cycle.
That's dark as shit.
And now we up the disturbing as Frostlass adds something new to the mix. According to its Pokédex entries, Frostlass was once a woman who got lost on a snowy mountain and died. And just like we've seen before, her spirit didn't move on. Instead, it possessed an icicle and became something else entirely. Frostlass. But this is where Frostlass becomes very different from everything we've talked about so far. Frostlass isn't wandering, searching, or even trying to remember who it used to be. It's hunting people. Specifically, it targets handsome men. It freezes them solid and then keeps their bodies as decorations inside its den. Yeah, Frostlass is easily one of the scariest monsters in the entire Pokemon franchise. And when you start looking into where this idea comes from, it gets even more unsettling. So, Frostlass is heavily inspired by a figure from Japanese folklore, the Yuki Onna, a spirit of a woman who died in the snow who lures travelers into blizzards, freezing them to death where they stand. Yeah, this isn't just a random dark Pokédex entry, this is a direct adaptation of a real Japanese ghost story. And now, that does raise a really uncomfortable question about the woman who became Frostlass. Like, what happened to her? Was she lost? Was she abandoned? Because whatever it was, it must have been dark enough that it didn't just create a Pokemon. It created something that came back to life with a purpose, and that purpose was hunting. And then there's Drifloon. Visually, it looks harmless, just a small floating balloon drifting through the sky. Honestly, it looks like something you'd see at a birthday party. But then you read what it actually is, and it becomes a lot harder to look at the same way again. Because according to its Pokédex entries, Drifloon is made up of wandering souls, spirits that gathered together for companionship.
Oh, wow.
And that's a really creepy detail, because these spirits are all lost, aimless, looking for something they don't have anymore. And the way they try to fix that is where things get infamously disturbing. Because Drifloon tries to carry children away. That's literally what the game tells you. It grabs onto them and attempts to drag them off into the sky. When you connect that with what it's made of, its intentions are pretty clear. It's not just taking these kids somewhere, it's turning them into more souls, more pieces of itself. And of course, it gets worse when you realize that this isn't even its final form. Because when Drifloon gathers enough of these souls, it evolves into Drifblim. And Drifblim is everything Drifloon couldn't be. It's bigger, it's stronger, and it's capable of carrying not just children, but fully grown adults. Drifloon evolves into Drifblim because it collected enough souls that it needed to become a bigger vessel. Both Pokemon, however, have collected so many souls that they're about to burst. And if they were to burst, the trapped human souls will spill out with horrendous screams and wails. There's a very strong reason why Drifloon is notorious, and here it is.
Wow. Pokemon just continues to get darker. Yes. I've known about this one though.
And then there's one of the most iconic ghost types in the entire series. Ghastly. If you played the original games, you've seen this thing everywhere, floating around graveyards, lurking in dark corners, basically the definition of a classic ghost Pokemon. And for a long time, that's all it really seemed like. Just a creepy ball of gas with a face. But years later, the games added something that completely changed how you looked at it. Because according to its Sun and Moon Pokedex entries, Ghastly isn't just gas. That swirling cloud around it was aggrieved spirits that possessed the gases leaking from a graveyard. Spirits that couldn't move on, binding themselves to toxic gas, forming something physical. This makes Ghastly way more unsettling than we remember it. But that's just the beginning, because of course, Ghastly evolves, and as it does, it becomes more aware. By the time it reaches Gengar, it's no longer just a collection of drifting spirits. It's something else entirely. It's a Pokemon with intent. And according to its Pokedex entries, Gengar was once human, and it's not vague about it either. It outright says it used to be a person. But unlike Yamask or Phantom, Gengar doesn't seem to care about what it lost. It's not sad, and it's not trying to remember its past life. It's doing something far worse. It's trying to find a companion. And the way it does that is what makes this so dark. Instead of looking for other ghosts, Gengar creates them. It hides in the shadows, it waits for people, and then it takes their lives, with the goal of turning them into spirits just like itself. Gengar is super dark when you think about it, but like many other, Gengar isn't the only example of this, because you'll probably start to realize that in Pokemon there's this cycle, you know? Humans become spirits, spirits become Pokemon, and some of those Pokemon make sure that cycle continues.
Sandygast?
And then there's Sandygast, which might be one of the easiest Pokemon to overlook, because at first glance, well, it's just a pile of sand. There's nothing really aggressive about it. It's not intimidating. But like a lot of things in the Pokemon world, the reality is a lot darker than it seems. According to its Pokedex entries, that pile of sand is being held together by grudges, specifically the grudges of the dead, which is a really strange idea when you think about it, because this one isn't a spirit, it's not even a defined group of souls like Spiritomb, it's actually negative emotion. Wow. We're talking anger, resentment, all lingering after death with nowhere to go. And instead of fading away, well, it gathers. It clings to something physical, like a mound of sand left behind on a beach, and slowly, very slowly, becomes aware. Which already makes Sandygast pretty unsettling, but then you look at how it behaves. It waits for someone to get close, and when they do, it latches onto them, forcing them to add more sand to its own body to make it bigger. And now, when Sandygast evolves, it becomes Palisand, a massive sentient sandcastle, and buried deep inside its body are, of course, human bones, which tells you everything you need to know about this Pokemon. This is something that grows by consuming people, constructed by resentment, and left behind in places where people should feel safe.
Oh, wow. Hitmonchan. So let me guess, Hitmonlee too?
Next up, there's Hitmonchan, and this is a really strange case because it doesn't really fit into anything we've talked about so far. Like, it's not a ghost, it's not made of souls, neither is it a cursed object. It's just a fighter, a humanoid Pokemon built entirely around boxing. And for the longest time, that's all it seemed like. Just another fighting type with a pretty clear theme. But then, its Pokedex entry started saying something that changed how you look at it. Because according to some entries, Hitmonchan is said to possess the spirit of a boxer who never made it to the championship. So Hitmonchan is a peculiar case, because it's unclear from the Pokedex data if it's a human reincarnation or whether it's somehow infused with the spirit of the deceased. Is this a person reborn who never stopped fighting? Or is this a spirit trapped in an endless fight long after the person it used to be was gone?
What the fuck is this? Chun-Pao? This gotta be a new gen too.
And then there's Chin Pao, one of the newest Pokemon on this list, and honestly one of the most interesting, because by this point we've seen humans become Pokemon in a lot of different ways. We've had spirits, transformations, curses, even emotions. But Chin Pao takes all of that and kind of scales it up. So, according to its Pokedex entry, Chin Pao wasn't just created from one person. It wasn't even a group like Spiritomb. It's formed from the spirits of people who were killed by swords, all coming together into a single entity. And when you look at its design, it starts to make a lot more sense, you know? Its fangs resemble blades, almost like it's made from the very thing that caused those deaths. But what's really interesting is how different this one feels, because compared to everything else we've seen, this one doesn't come across as tragic. By moving on after death and becoming part of this legendary Pokemon, it almost feels like a sort of Valhalla for the souls of the fallen warriors put to rest by the sword. And if some of these Pokemon used to be human, then the next question is, where did they come from? Because there are actual places in the Pokemon world where people don't just disappear. They don't come back as Pokemon, well, they simply continue to linger in the world of the living. I broke that down in this video right here, where you can...
All right, man. Yo, shout out to 411. This was interesting. I ain't gonna lie to you. I might check that other one out too. But yo, let me know down there. Let me know down what I should check out next. And if you knew any of this, like, I ain't the biggest Pokemon guy, but you know, I grew up watching Pokemon. I grew up playing Pokemon. You know what I mean? Like I said, red, blue, fucking violet. What was the one with the Rayquaza? The game was green or whatever. I forgot what it was. But that one, yeah. Let me know. Grandma was right again. Shout out to grandma.